Good morning. Welcome to a regular meeting of the Brevard County Commission. It is Tuesday, February 21st. Do we have Pastor Steve Young in the building? Thank you for coming this morning, sir. State the church you're from, that would be delightful.
Highlander Alliance Church on Merritt Island.
Thank you.
Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for just bringing us here safely. Lord, we thank you that you are in control of all things. Lord God, we just pray your blessing on this gathering, this meeting. Lord, we pray for each person here. Lord, for each commissioner and those in positions of authority. God, we pray that as they make decisions, God, that you would give them wisdom and guidance. Lord, your Holy Spirit would fill them. God, we pray for our county and each person. Lord God, that you would just work in each one of our lives. And God, may you be glorified and may you receive the honor and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. We have a quorum, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. Commissioner Goodson, if you'd lead us in the pledge, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for January 10?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Zonka.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Goodson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving to consent agenda, I have Commissioner Goodson's going to be voting no on number 3 without pulling it, but we are going to pull number 8. Commissioners, do you have any other items you want to pull? Okay, I have one card on item F9, so Ms. Sullivan, if you would come and present, and then we will see where you guys want to go with approving the consent.
At 8 too.
I said it. I gotcha.
Didn't hear. Bad ear.
No, it's okay. I talk kind of fast sometimes.
Good morning. So Speak Up Brevard is...
I'm sorry, name real
Oh,
quick.
sorry,
for the-
Sandra
Thank
Sullivan.
you.
Good morning. South Patrick Shores. Speak Up Brevard is in our charter. It's not mentioned as Speak Up Brevard. This is the opportunity for the public to weigh in on proposals. It's a shame that the county does not post this on their website or it's on the website, but not to say that this is open for the month of December for people to put in proposals. I've also written for 2 years regarding Speak Up Brevard because it's supposed to be open until the end of the day on the 31st of December. And both years I did it in the middle of the afternoon and it said, see you next year. So I would, politely request that this be extended to January 15th, just because you have the holidays, you have kids home from school, you have Christmas activities. December's just a bad month, just to extend it. Anyway, so Mary submitted one regarding Hightower, and I just want to comment on that. Aside from all the promises made to Brevard residents for conservation lands for our beloved green sea turtles for Hightower, doing nothing jeopardizes $40 million in sand renourishment project just this year alone on the mid-reach, and future millions of dollars as the county is in violation of the Corps of Engineers permit should development use the Hightower outfall. Hightower was created to be a dark and undisturbed beach for green sea turtles and shorebirds. It is, in summary, this is a surrounding area with lots of disorientations, and this is Hightower. It's doing its job. It has one disorientation of hatchlings. That's the biggest threat to the sea turtles, is development putting lights on the beach. That's why it was created to be dark and undisturbed, because the green sea turtle is a very wary turtle and needs a dark beach. And so the promises made to Brevard County that generations of Brevard County residents would be forever indebted for the county's participation on this environmental initiative. So unfortunately, those agreements are not being kept. And I want to bring a point to that there, in speaking to the former attorney, Eden Bentley, she had said that the county was partner on Hightower and co-applicant on Pelican. So Pelican they would have standing and Hightower they wouldn't. It turns out that's false, because in both instances, the county was funded joint acquisition, and by the Florida Administrative Code 815, they're both the same, in that the county was legally, okay, I'll finish up on my next public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Okay, I have 6 cards, all by Ms. Christine Lorty. If you want to come forward. These are items that the commission didn't poll. So if you want to...
Voted on them yet?
No. So if you want to start on like item F1 and we'll run through your concerns with them.
Okay.
Okay.
Glad to do that. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kristen Lorty. I'm a COCO resident. I am a concerned citizen and an advocate for citizenry throughout Brevard County. I'm the founder of the COCO Care Citizens Group. We're a Facebook group that has over 900 members, and I'm a current participant in the County Citizens Academy. And welcome to the new commissioners, Goodson and Feltner. Welcome. So I have a keen interest in the consent agenda, and the reason is because I believe that a significant amount of city and county business, municipal business, occurs on the consent agenda. And for example, for this meeting, 75% of the business action items on this meeting are occurring on the consent agenda. We have 12 items that you're about to pass on the consent
Ma'am,
agenda.
does this have to do with this particular
I will.
item, or is
I'll
this a
speak to
public
it.
comment?
It affects this particular item, affects all the items.
Okay, well then, I would encourage you, if you're going to just make a generalized comment, that you save that for public comment.
I have a different topic for the public comment.
Okay.
So on this particular topic, This particular topic is the North American Wetlands F1 Conservation Act grant application, partnership with Ducks Unlimited. This is a $90,000 grant, a matching grant for a $180,000 trust, acquiring land in Mare Island. And I just believe that these items should be articulated for the benefit of all the public. They're completely invisible. I am not taking exception to this item. I reviewed it. It looks promising that we're acquiring conservation lands. But by the same token, the definition of the consent agenda is that the commission, the items that are eligible for the consent agenda are routine matters that are typically non-controversial and do not deviate from past board direction or policy. I do not believe that the commission follows that definition of consent agenda. So on this, I believe it's a very significant item that's taking place in the county, and that there's not even a deliberate outlaying by the commission on what's happening and what's being voted on today. So that's my comment on that.
Okay.
On item F2, the final plan and contract approval.
Hold on just a
Go
second,
ahead.
Ms. Lordy. Commissioner Tobias?
Yeah.
Thank you, and thanks for doing all the work on this. My question is, you said this wasn't transparent, and yet you were able to access this information. Did you do a public records request, or how did you get the information?
I'd like to correct my word on that. I would like to say visible. I would say it's accessible for the residents of Brevard that know where to look on the county website, that know exactly where to go, and that know how to access the background detail. It is accessible for those who know about it. It's very little known, and the consent agenda and its operations are very little known within Brevard. So I would say visible, to correct my word. It's
Okay.
accessible for those who know. Fair?
Okay, I don't know.
I mean, so it is transparent, just to be very clear.
It's not transparent. For example, in Titusville, the city manager reads aloud all of the items. That's transparent. He goes through the whole consent agenda. He reads those aloud. That provides transparency for those that aren't accessing the written materials to actually hear it and have it on a recorded meeting. So that would be transparency, to give you a counter.
Okay, and just to be clear, do you believe there's something nefarious happening?
I believe that there's
It's a yes or no.
I am not accusing the commission of nefariousness. I am accusing them of invisibility. Nefarious is too extreme of a word.
Okay, I get really concerned when I hear citizens say stuff is not transparent or visible, and yet it's posted online. It's ADA compliant. We post a hard copy. You can call any commission office and get it probably ahead of time. So again, please, you're welcome to say whatever the heck you want up here, but please choose your words correctly, or be a little bit more, I don't know, transparent with your comments.
I'll be more explicit, and so it's visible. It's not that the information is not available, it's that it's not visible to the public and anyone illiterate in the county of Brevard. It's completely, they can't even, so, another topic. Can I go on to the next one? The next one is on F2, the final plat and contract approval regarding the Vieira Company District 4. There are 4 items on the current agenda for the Vieira Company, and my comment on that is just that Vieira is a major development. This company is a major developer, and once again, these items are not read out loud for the benefit of the public to understand what's going on. They're being voted on without a public reading. I put in a card for item, and so
Item F3, you're on.
Item F3. So my item F3 is, the fire station. So
I'm sorry, item F.
Yeah, no, all 4 F2 through F5 have
No,
the same general comment.
You didn't have F3, I'm sorry, you have
Development.
F7.
And yes, I do. So item F7 is the award of emergency medical services EMS County Trust grant funds to local providers for 2022 and 2023. And I did a little bit of background research on that with the materials that are available on the county website for those that choose to study this. And what I found was that I had a couple of observations and a couple of questions. One of them is that there are 6 grants that were submitted to receive emergency medical service funds totaling an amount of $39,141. Any of the providers in Brevard County are eligible to apply for the grants, yet 3 of those 6 are to Brevard County Fire Rescue. Brevard County Fire Rescue, it will be receiving 71.7% of the funds, whereas the other 3 that apply, Titusville, Rockledge, and then Cape Canaveral VFD, they get the remainder of that. So I just wanted to articulate that. I had a couple of questions of, one, on the materials that were available. The actual section 42-108 is stated in the meeting minutes to be available, yet that actual section is not available online. So I was able to do a further search and locate it, but it was not available with the meeting minutes. I had a question on the notification of the local provider, since it's an interesting grant, and I imagine that it would be there would be local interest in obtaining those funds. I was interested in how it is notified to everybody, since it is required that it is notified. It says the department will notify local EMS providers of the open time period that grant applications will be accepted. That grant period wasn't specified. The notification was not included. And I think it would actually help to include in the background materials, to help make it both more transparent and more visible, to include the notification to the local EMS providers so that we can see that it was a Brevard-wide initiative, that everybody had the opportunity, and that it just happened that the county is receiving over 71% of the grants in it. And I did appreciate that the grant apps are included online, so anybody can look for that. Okay, so I just want to be clear. I'm not trying to be unfair about anything. Those are my comments, and I don't have a opposed or consenting. This is background information of what would be helpful to the public, me as someone who researched the item, and for the public to know that there's a grant. $39,000 is about to be distributed. That's it for that item.
I have
Item
a
F
question.
none?
Did you ask anybody, I mean, if you were interested in that background material and thought that we should have included the letter did you ask anybody or send an email to anybody for that notice? You said it wasn't available.
It wasn't available. I was researching this last night to prepare for the meeting. I didn't think anybody was going to be interested.
So even since last night, you didn't send an email to our fire chief or to any of our offices to ask for that letter?
I'm offering that feedback now. I did not send a prior. There are times when I do. You're aware that I do send you information in advance, and I do make my statements in advance. I don't always have the luxury of that time.
So it's not that it wasn't available?
It wasn't available in the online backup materials. Allow me to be more clear. It's not available in the online backup materials.
Many documents in the back. I mean,
Right, but you had some that were very helpful, and then these few are feedback to the county that these other ones would also help someone, so that I didn't have to disturb any of your offices. Okay, so that's it on that one. On the next one, the next card I have is for Speak Up Brevard, consent F9. This item is an item that I actually made a public comment on when they were doing the updating of the, I'm getting my words wrong, but the charter recently. So just in the last year, they've updated the charter. And one of the suggestions from one of the charter members charter review members was to have this twice a year, this Speak Up Brevard twice a year. And there was some good dialogue. There was the county shared some information on what's happened with that before, and the citizens weigh in. Citizens may not be aware that this is an opportunity that's given once a year, according to charter, for citizens to weigh in, to provide items for the county to consider, and potentially have a specific agenda item to relay those. So I was very interested in having that twice a year. But even in the once a year, when I reviewed the materials for this one, it was discouraging to see that this year there was only one, possibly two comments. I heard from another person that they may have also submitted a comment. But I provide the feedback that this happens in December. And December is really not the month that many citizens are thinking about how we can help the county government. So I wish that it was done in an entirely different month. There was only one registered. I will be marking my calendar, so you hear something from me in December. But it's disconcerting to me that we have it one time a year, that I didn't see it published. I'm sure it was published that it was made known somehow, but it didn't cross my bandwidth this year. I will be looking for it next year. I hope that it is publicized to residents that this is an opportunity for us to participate in the makings of our county government. I'm disappointed that it's on a consent agenda. I think it was worth at least the time to verbalize it during the meeting as an actual actual item. But that's my feedback on that. Is I'm disappointed that we had such little turnout, but then also that it's being in a not visible enough environment on the consent agenda for the public, and then has no discussion intended for it. That's my comment on F10. Okay, next is F11, the appointments and reappointments. So on this agenda, and this consent agenda, there are 5 members, 4 being appointed for various roles, and 1 being taken off of the board. And that would be former Palm Bay Councilman Pete Filiberto is being removed from his position on the P&Z board via this consent agenda item. Now, this has been one of the most talked about, it's been publicized events that's happened. You know, Mr. Filiberto's unfortunate stepping down from the board and the circumstances around it. And I just think that, his being removed from this board should be more visible. So I'm here helping to make that more visible, that with this consent agenda item, he is being removed from this board. I don't care to weigh in on support or lack of support. I'm more interested in the visibility of something that is a recent relevant event being included on the consent agenda. And I will say, in closing my consent agenda, that there is an item that I support being on the consent agenda and meeting the criteria for the consent agenda. I did not make a card, but I would like to tell you it's item F12. It's a bill folder. It has 3 invoices on it for a total of $130. I'm entirely supportive of that being on the consent agenda. And I hope that commissioners do review these and suggest to pull some of these in the future for at least the staff to give everyone a rundown on what is being voted on. And that is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a comment. Commissioner Zonka.
Yeah, and I would just comment to you, you can sit down, that's fine. I didn't, not want to put that item on consent because I think Mr. Filiberto is probably dealing with some stuff, and his family is, and I didn't think it was appropriate to either embarrass him or anybody else by making it a very public spectacle. It's been in the newspaper, even my comments on his removal have been in the newspaper, so as far as I'm concerned, at least that was transparent, but I don't think it's the board's job to further embarrass him or his family. So that's all my comment is on that.
Okay, I would agree with you on that. There's enough newspaper headlines out there going on, and we're going to do due diligence of what we have to do that we're responsible to do as well. I need a motion to approve the consent except for item F8 with Commissioner Goodson voting no on F3.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Tabaya,
Second?
second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, passes 5-0. Item F8, Commissioner Goodson, this is your poll.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just have a few questions. Thank the staff for getting me the cost of it. On the cost of $187,000, that's $200 a foot. Can staff tell me what you're going to do to that shoreline that's $200 a foot?
So what we have planned, Mary Ellen Donner, Parks and Recreation Director, what we have planned is 600 cubic yards of beach with compatible soils placed on a geotechnical fabric. It's a revetment. And of course, the $187,000 we would have to get bid out through our contractors.
Okay, thank you. So the 187 is a staff estimate at this time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Also, you're transferring $217,000, correct?
A total of,
Roughly 200, I thought.
Yes.
Okay. Now, that would leave you $40,000, and where's the $40,000 going extra? It
As-
could go to the bid, I understand that.
so $30,000 of that, it has been allocated to repairing the Intercoastal Waterway Boardwalk that's just east of the Merritt Island Bridge.
And could you tell us how much shoreline was damaged? Is it 2 foot deep, 4 foot deep, 10 foot deep?
At Kelly Park?
Yes.
There's a variety. I actually was out there yesterday, and it looks like it's anywhere from about maybe 6 inches to 3 feet. It's a differential as it
Right.
spans the shoreline.
And at the present time, what is that beach used for?
It's used for public and contracted kayak non-motorized boat launching.
Okay. Now, you've applied for FEMA funding, correct?
It is on the list for FEMA to consider reimbursement. FEMA inspectors have been out in the last number of weeks taking a look at our project, so yes, it's on the list to be considered.
Now, if you receive that money, would you say the $217,000 would go back into Parks and Rec, District 2?
The money that FEMA reimburses goes back into the fund from which it was taken. Correct.
Okay. And the last question, thank you, Madam Chair, the last one. If FEMA agrees, or what kind of a basic timeline would you say that you would know you got the money from FEMA, or getting the money?
I can tell you, I was in Collier County when Wilma had a direct hit, and it was anywhere from, it could be 5 to, it's hard to say when FEMA decides, but 5 to 5 years.
It could be anywhere between a year and up to 5 years. Typically, anywhere, on average, I would say between 1 and 2 years, depending on the project. We're working very diligently this time around to make sure that we package our request for reimbursement and include everything so that we can move through that process quicker. That's our goal.
And I guess the last question, I'm so sorry, last question. There's nowhere else, you're taking this money out of Parks and Rec. And if you know anything about Parks and Recs, the fields are overused, need a little bit of everything. There's nowhere else we can find $187,000.
This was savings that we identified. We had estimated what shade structures would cost for 5 various playgrounds. They came in a little bit lower for all 5, and so this was where we could identify available funds for replacement.
I understand. County Manager, Mr. Frank, can you tell me, is there any other place we could find $187,000?
I can tell you that in the past, where we've had similar situations, Parks and Rec has actually taken a loan out. The board approved a loan from insurance funds, and it was reimbursed to the insurance funds. And that was several $1 million, and they're actually in the process of paying it back because they haven't received reimbursement from FEMA on those either. Okay. So that's where we did it, and a couple of years ago, I forget how many million we borrowed out of the insurance fund for that. It was like over $3 million, if I recall correctly.
We got approved for $12 million, and I think we have borrowed in the neighborhood of about $5 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Goodson, pleasure.
I will not be voting for it. My pleasure is that somebody else can make a motion.
Commissioner Tobias?
Madam Chair, and I'm just doing a quick search. There are so many parks that you have to maintain. Would all of the parks that the savings for the shade structures come from be in Commissioner Goodson's district?
They are all in Commissioner District number 2.
Okay. And yeah, I was plotting that in here. Commissioner Goodson, we've done a good job here. Bids came in lower than what we'd expected, so we have a little extra money. This is on the agenda to help, re-nourish that beach. Is there somewhere else you would rather see this savings go than to that beach? Voting no is one thing. Voting no with a better solution for where that money to go, I certainly would like to hear that before I cast my vote here.
Madam Chair. Well, I would like to see it stay in Parks and Rec. I'd like to see it directed toward improving, it's not enough money, but it's close, lighting at Mitch Ellington Park for another soccer field, because if you know anything about the people coming in out of Orlando or different areas for tournaments, that park is getting a lot of use. I'd like to see that, but I'm not willing to transfer money into another fund to be used, and not when the savings was in Parks and Rec, not in construction. That's my comment.
Just out of curiosity, would tourism funds be eligible for this? Because it's, it's the beach, it's launching. I mean, would any category of tourism funds be eligible for that funding?
I think that the majority of people who use this beach are local.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I mean, just a question. I figure since we're talking about tourism funds later, if there was an opportunity there.
Madam Chair?
We're doing great. Go ahead.
Or
Why-
maybe tourism
why-
funds eligible for your lighting of the soccer fields
Oh.
because that's travel
Well,
teams.
TDC already gives money, not for the lighting,
Yeah.
but for Parks and Recs. You know, what would it do if we just reshape the beach? Is that against the law to reshape it?
No, it is not. After the last hurricane, we replaced the shell and the sod, and it was gone in the next hurricane. So we're looking to harden the surface so that we don't have to keep coming back and improving.
I find it hard to believe that you're talking about hardening the surface, and that's going to do something against a hurricane. Because if you know anything about a hurricane, it'll take concrete down. So I don't know what you're going to harden it with. But that's just my comment.
Up in District 1, we had this situation with a very, very heavily used beach park. And so what I did is I took $500,000 of ARPA funds I had set aside and just went ahead and renourished the beach with sand. But we had to jump through major hoops, and we had a small period of time to refurbish this beach. But it leads up to a causeway. So Commissioner Goodson, if you don't feel this is good for your district and you want to do something different, I'm not going to go against you either, because this is all yours.
Yeah.
So, sir,
I would like for staff to come back to us and with what it would cost or what the problems would be with reshaping the beach. If anything, you're moving the beach back because the sand's gone. I don't know if this, I just can't support it, and I'm just going to vote no, and I'm sorry. Until you give me some answers.
Madam
Commissioner
Chair?
Tobias?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank staff. This was a creative approach for savings that we potentially could get reimbursed, but I understand Commissioner Goodson's opinion here, and since this is something that is all within his district, what I would like to do is table this until the next meeting so Commissioner Goodson can spend a little time working within that savings, working within that budget and the savings that you found to find a better use for the funds according to Commissioner Goodson. Bring that back at the next meeting. So my motion is to table F8, Madam Chair, till the March, is it 7th?
Okay, I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. We will bring this back to the table. Okay. Public comments?
We voted on the rest, right?
Yes, we're all set. I have Ms. Heather Stapleton. Hi, ma'am, how are you? Good. It says introduction.
Merely an introduction.
All right,
That's
if you
it.
state your name and address.
Good morning. My name is Heather Stapleton. I'm a resident of Indian River County at 1726 32nd Avenue, Vero Beach, Florida. I am one of 3 newly hired community engagement coordinators for the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. I just wanted to thank Commissioner Feltner for being a part of the Indian River Lagoon Council. And I want to thank Brevard County for really kind of being the leading county for having done so much for the Indian River Lagoon. We certainly appreciate that. You know, Brevard County obviously has a large share of the lagoon, and we appreciate all the attention that you as a county and your staff especially, and even your cities have been paying attention to the lagoon, and we really appreciate that. In that I am one of the new community engagement coordinators. My territory is from Cocoa down to the Indian River County line, so I hope to be seeing more of you and getting to know you a little bit better. Brevard County is kind of new to me, and so I'm just here to say thank you, and I hope that, Commissioner Feltner already knows this, but I hope that you can use the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program as a resource, and I just hope that we can be helpful, and I look forward to working more with you.
Thank you, ma'am. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Ms. Sandra Sullivan.
Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. So speaking about the High Tower Conservation Area. So it turns out, in reviewing documents, I saw that legal is missing a lot of documents to do with High Tower that I obtained in other places. So the county was a joint acquisition partner on High Tower. And what that means is, under Florida Administrative Code 815, the county had the legal requirement to update your comprehensive plan, capping density on central beaches, and you cap density on South Base housing at 999 units explicitly. What's important here is that what is going on right now and what has transpired in the meantime. So in 2001, the city increased density on that property when it was not in their jurisdiction. It was actually in county jurisdiction. The county, having just made these changes just 2 years earlier to their comprehensive plan, filed a formal objection letter to DCA. That's here. And the significance of this is a legal opinion was made at that time that the city was not allowed to do what they were doing. So in consequence, there are newspaper articles, there's a lot of documentary evidence that I provided to the county attorney that it was the Air Force pushing for this additional density. In this article in Florida Today, the county said no to the additional density, and that hence it got annexed to the city in 2003. But the bottom line here is now we're looking at this increased density being clustered adjacent to the High Tower Conservation Area. That conservation area is to be a dark and undisturbed beach. So when you put 85 feet and then you add commercial use and you put intensity use on a conservation lands, that is inconsistent. So the county park and the FCT lands and the state lands were jointly called High Tower Park. They were all conservation. This shows that. And so now the county park is being removed as conservation lands to facilitate. So under your interlocal agreement, it has a clause for improper use. And it says, or not public use. Both are issues because the sky bridge that was approved in the final development plan has a sky bridge from the hotel and the hotel property, which is private use, into the county, former county park, as well as improper use, putting intensity use on that. And then finally, the FCT agreement has an adjacent property clause limiting height and land uses that would harm the site. So
Thank you.
I ask that the county take action on this.
Thank you. Ms. Kristen Lordy.
Good morning again, Commissioners. My name is Kristen Lortie, Cocoa resident, founder of the Cocoa Care Citizens Group, and a member of the County Citizens Academy, which I highly recommend to everyone in Brevard County. I am sharing a comment this morning to raise awareness on an item that's happening in the city of Cocoa. There are overlays and interactions between the county and the city government, and I would like to increase awareness around this issue. My comment was actually inspired by Commissioner Tobias, who made a comment at the January 24th meeting when he said, "The city of Cocoa is not our friend." He made that during the meeting. I happened to be watching that meeting because I was watching the advisory committee agenda item, and I gave that some thought. And there's so little time to be able to say what I would like to say, but I gave that some thought, and I came to the conclusion that there are citizens in the city of Cocoa that believe that the city is not our friend either. Now, Commissioner Tobias' item did get addressed. I saw it happen that night because I was at the meeting. It became a final agenda item that night, on the next meeting, whereas my item that I had brought to the city's attention was not addressed. It was not addressed at the meeting. It was not addressed in a follow-up meeting. And I found that remarkable. A sitting commissioner can get attention and heat in the city of Cocoa, but residents that care greatly about what's going on in our city have a much harder time of it. So my topic at that meeting was I was calling for the performance evaluations in compliance with the city's contract of the city manager, and which have not happened despite the city manager beginning his third year of service. The city of Cocoa and the city manager, the council declined to have that performance review. Now, why would I be interested in a performance review? I am interested in performance review because the citizens of Cocoa have seen a serious degradation of citizenry in the city of Cocoa during the current leadership. We have seen things like, just to rattle off a few things, we've seen rollback in the district town halls, which used to occur quarterly. There's been no citizen engagement in city planning processes, such as parks planning, strategic planning, the budget workshops. We have all the minimal, just the legal requirements of what is needed. Everything is minimal, despite citizens repeatedly requesting public engagement opportunities. Things are so degraded right now that the city manager declined to even respond to a simple email asking if our Thursday budget workshop that happens during the day when many citizens are at work will be recorded. He declined to answer a simple, polite email overture. This just scratches the surface of things. I've been studying this for now 18 months, since I became aware of it when we had a millage hike and protested park spending in 2021, that I got more involved and engaged and started the citizens group in the first place. This just scratches the surface. Why would I be talking to the commission to raise awareness, to say that I'm interested in meeting with both of our commissioners, Commissioner Pritchett and Commissioner Goodson, both who work with Cocoa, and to please be mindful that Cocoa is not listening to its citizens when you approve items.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, public comment is closed. We're going to open public hearings. Item H1, I do have one comment card from Ms. Rosanka if necessary, correct? All right, so.
This item is a public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance amending procedures for submittals of binding development plans. The board previously issued legislative intent on this item on August 30th. The item makes 4 changes to section 62-1157. First, it requires that all legal and equitable owners of the property and any entity with an interest in the property, including lieners, be identified in the BDP application. It then requires that all such owners and interest holders ultimately be made a party to the BDP. It clarifies when the 120-day period to record a BDP begins. And fourth, at the request of the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board, a mechanism for an extension of that 120-day period was added. On December 14th, the Building Construction Advisory Board reviewed the ordinance and recommended approval. And likewise, on January 9th, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval of this ordinance with the recommendation that we clarify the mechanism for an extension, which we have done.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to call Ms. Rosanka up. She was kind enough to send us an email so that we had time to review some of your concerns. So, ma'am, if you would address them, and then if county staff is, or we'll see what the commission has to say as well, that you guys can let us know what your thoughts are. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairman, members of County Commission, Kim Rosanka, Lacey Lyons Rosanka, and Rockledge, Florida. I'm here on behalf of future clients. I don't have anyone here that's asked me to come here, but I have been working with BDP since 2001 in the county, and I'm very familiar with this ordinance. My concern is, as I've raised twice, one, it's unclear what equitable owner is and what any interest in property means. Mr. Prasad did say it's all lien holders. Well, there's unrecorded liens. So in essence, you're asking anyone who does a BDP, sometimes we're here in front of you and you say, let's do a BDP, and we don't know if there's lien holders. We don't know what the bank's going to do. In fact, I've had 2 this past year that the banks would not sign joinders because we didn't have the chance to contact them. So you're basically asking for a title search. And then if you're asking for a title search, that's extra cost on the applicant. And if they don't do a title search, you have no way of knowing for sure that they've captured every lien holder. So I've made several suggestions in the 2 emails to you and to the county, asking that any interest be changed to mortgage holder or known lien holders. I mean, if you can get them in the public record, which only goes back to 81. But as I said, this could deal with leases, any leaseholder, any tenants. It could be much broader than you expect. I understand this is what the statutory development agreement states. They don't have a definition. I couldn't find a definition in the Florida statutes. Hence, I found the definitions in Black's Law Dictionary and in state case law. So I would ask that you not adopt this. If you're not comfortable with making changes, since I just sent that to you yesterday, I'd ask that you table it and get some more input from your county attorney or Mr. Prasad, but I would definitely state that what you've done now is unmanageable if you adopt this as it is, and that you will be requiring a title opinion of every BDP applicant, or there's no way you can enforce this ordinance. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Rosanka.
In any other municipality or county government, do you have to ever do a title search?
No.
Okay. I honestly didn't know the answer to that,
Yeah,
but,
Palm Bay, West Melbourne, no.
because, I mean, that would be the solution, right? And then if you limited this to just title searches, but then there's a cost and time and everything else.
Well, there's also unrecorded liens, there's people who can
Right.
file mechanic liens, there's common law liens, there's all kinds of liens.
It
and
only
this
has
is-
the possibility of catching something.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Prasad and Calkins, why are we doing a change to the ordinance? Who initiated this process?
I believe the request had come from the previous county attorney.
Okay. Do you guys want to make any comments? I don't have any more lights up here of what you think we should do moving forward. Do you want some time? I know you received the email yesterday. Is there anything that you feel that could possibly be changed, or is this something we have to do legally? And I get the title search thing, but man, people would be crazy to buy property without a title search anyways, but again, that's on them. But go ahead.
Well, I have been in some discussions with Mr. Richardson since we received the email. Some of the suggestions Ms. Rosanka made, I mean, speaking with Mr. Richardson, if we were to implement, it kind of undermines the intent of the ordinance, for example, equitable interest holders. With that said, there might be some changes we could make to meet some of her concerns. For example, clarifying that we would require legal interest of record rather than just the term legal interest, if that would help in addressing her concerns.
Thank you. Commissioner Zonka?
Yeah, my question is, I mean, what is the intent of the ordinance? Is this a problem that we're having on a consistent basis that we would come forward with these changes? Because my concern is the very broad definition, even more so than the commission having the ability to include a BDP with a property when they come in and request something, or we want to put some restrictions. We don't have the ability to do that, at least not with a risk of liability at that point. The applicant would have to assume that liability because there would be no time to do a title search or whatever kind of search. And I guess what prompted this? It came from the prior county attorney, but was it from a commissioner or was it from a staff perspective? Were we having a problem?
I think I can speak a little bit to that. And actually, Mr. Zanka contacted me at my prior post at City of West Melbourne to ask me about the issue when it was going on. But I believe a few of her clients expressed difficulty, as she stated at the lectern, in obtaining a joinder from their bank. I can tell you that it's a pretty universal requirement of any non-statutory development agreement, like a binding development plan, that you get at least the joinder of mortgagees. Under Florida statutes, you are required to identify all equitable and legal interest holders of a property in a statutory development agreement, and that's also a pretty common provision in non-statutory development agreements. They're not always required to join. Sometimes it depends on the nature of the interest. Sometimes the interest can just be subordinated instead of joined. Sometimes county attorney and staff can look at it and determine it's not the kind of interest that requires any joinder or subordination, like an unperfected mechanics lien. Equitable interest holders in property, there's no one. You won't find it defined in the statutory development agreement statute, even though it's required there. It's because it's a limited universe of potential interest holders, but it would be hard to put a single narrow definition on. It could be the case of a widow who inherits but never probates and therefore doesn't have legal title of record, but is clearly the equitable title holder, for example. And you'd want that kind of person to be included on a decision like this that makes a big change to her property rights and interest. And putting those kind of people, the equitable owners and legal owners, on notice that this is even happening, that's part of the reason to at least identify, if not require their joinder here. But I think the impetus of this was pushback from, specifically, I think, from Attorney Rosanka about why do I have to do this? It's not required by ordinance. Well, mortgagees really need to join in a binding development plan if you want it to be worth the paper it's written on.
Commissioner Zonka, you still have the floor, ma'am.
Yeah, and I would just be interested in, I mean, with the attorney's discuss it because this is a little out of our legal realm. Do you have any comment to that? Do you mind if I call her up? Oh, is that okay?
Ma'am.
When I did contact Mr. Richardson, I've known Mr. Richardson for a long time and have contacted him about county issues because he was here for a long time. The issue was I couldn't get a joinder, and so I started doing the research, and we found out that the joinder wasn't required by your current ordinance or your board policies. So I may have been the impetus for that. I don't have a problem with the mortgage holder. I was using my legal means at the time because it wasn't in your ordinance. I agree mortgage holder should be in there. I don't have any problem with that. It's just when you go to all these legal equitable, when you talk about leases. And sometimes these people have owned the property for years, so they're not doing title searches to purchase. So I just would ask that it be limited when you start going to all these leaseholders when it's not always possible to know who they are when you're standing here at the podium doing a rezoning. So yes, I would love to take time to speak more. And again, I just couldn't get to the agenda item until yesterday, and I apologize for the late notice on that. But you did notice, I mean, I've been on this since the Building Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, what's your pleasure? Commissioner Zonka?
I don't know how the rest of the board feels about this, but I do have some concerns, just because I don't want to be putting additional restrictions that no other government agency is following, and I think it actually could create more problems, so I'd like to see this reworked. So my suggestion right now would be to table, but if the board decides to move forward, that's...
I'm inclined with you. Commissioner Feltner, are you trying to push a button? I saw your finger, but I don't see a light.
I was going for it. You beat me to it. I'm with you. I think we should work on this and bring it back.
Good. Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to table. Which item was this?
I'll second.
H1. Table H1. Would the next meeting be a good timing?
The next meeting be the board's pleasure for March 7th.
All right.
Okay, we'll table this item until March 7th.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes 5-0. Moving into item H2. Ms. Rosanka, you have a card on this as well, and you're about to read this. Before you do, Commissioners, just so you know, this is in my district, and I have no concerns with this.
So good morning, Commissioners. H2 is a petition to vacate a public right-of-way for Old Sharps Road. Canaveral Grove Landing LLC is the petitioner, District 1. As part of it, of the vacate, we'd also accept a drainage and access easement as well as a conservation easement. There's one known objection by Mr. Bovee at 785 Anway. Staff has no concerns.
Okay, Commissioners, your pleasure, please. Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Commissioner Zonka. Second by Commissioner Tabaya. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. We're going to move right into new business now. Item J1. Commissioner Goodson, this is yours, sir. Bring it back.
Yes, ma'am, I'd like the board to consider a motion for $53,795.80 to be given to the air show. And hopefully all the questions we had at the last meeting have been answered. That is my motion.
Thank you, sir. And I'm going to have the commissioners please jump in on this because it was quite an interesting topic last time. Commissioner Zonka, ma'am.
I had some questions for the applicant. It looks like that they're possibly here. Are they here?
Do we have the applicant here?
They're here.
Sir, would you come forward, maybe fill out a card later for me? You must be Mr. Brian Lilly. Thank you.
Hi. I was just curious, you're requesting, your funding amount has changed. How come? Like from your first application to now, what's changed?
There really hasn't been a change in the expenses or what the show will cost.
Okay.
It was just in our discussions I had with Commissioner Goodson and the staff of what might be acceptable to the commission.
What might be acceptable? Can I ask what you need the money for?
For expenses for the air show, marketing expenses, flight operations, all the various things that it takes to produce the event.
Did you bring any kind of breakdown or of, where specifically you need the funding, or is it just expenses?
We would primarily put it towards marketing and content. Those are the the two most expensive items on our, if you would, budget, if you would call it. So
And how much money were you putting toward that for this air show?
I think,
About?
I don't have the breakdown. It was in the grant application. We had provided detailed numbers from our finance people.
Okay.
But I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 in costs to produce the entire event.
I don't have any more questions for now, but if you don't mind staying close in case
Certainly.
something else prompts it,
Yeah,
but.
be happy to.
Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And with your approval, this question is for Commissioner Goodson. The last meeting, you said, "I'm not going to support you. I'm sorry, but the commission just has too many questions that you can't get back to the board with." So my question to you, Commissioner Goodson, is thank you for following through with this. I guess speaking or meeting with the sponsor of this event, can you, because the Sunshine obviously couldn't ask you this prior, so what questions did you have? And obviously you got the right answers to bring these back. Can you just fill us in on your discussion as to why you were not supporting it a couple last meeting and now you are?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I met with the applicant, I told him I would not agree to fund any more than we're funding the boat show. And also I told him that with the questions that Commissioner Zonka had, he needed to get with her and make, and go over these and make her happy, and because I had the same concerns. I'm disappointed to hear that undoubtedly he has not met or never met with Zonka, Commissioner Zonka. So therefore, I might be pulling my support real quick here, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Zonka, I think you're trying to.
I did get kind of a vague email after the meeting, just saying, talking about just some very basic information. But again, my concerns with this, and they've been this in the past, is that there's no specifics. They say they want the money, but the number now is arbitrary. It's like they heard that you were okay with that funding level, or you said I could agree to this funding level, and they're saying, well, we'll take it. So to me, and if it's marketing, we have a TDC that does a great job at marketing. The TDC could commit some time or even funds toward that. But where I take issue with this is that this is all about profiting the promoter. I mean, and I'm just not comfortable with it. I wasn't comfortable with it when we did this in the past. We gave $100,000, or the request last time was for $100,000 for a live stream. But again, there was really no details. Okay. So again, I'm not comfortable with this at all.
Commissioner Feltner, sir, do you want to jump in?
On the last meeting, I said that I didn't think that this put heads in beds, and that's the purpose of the tourism development tax. I stand by that. I don't think that it will. I do think the residents probably enjoy this air show, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's no admission. They can see it from the beach. So I'm not here today to say that it isn't a nice event for Brevard County. When we talk about spending tourism tax, I think that should be geared towards people staying the night in Brevard County. I'll admit, I do think they're going to come over to the beach and spend a lot in food and beverage and maybe go shopping and that sort of thing. So I understand your concerns, and so we'll see what we want to do here today.
I'm going to weigh in real quick.
Okay. Sure.
I did a little bit of research, because Commissioner Zonka, typically when she's got like a hesitant like that, it's usually something in there. So I went and did some studying, and I think you do an amazing job with a bunch of air shows all across the country. You actually have over 15 LLCs. So I started trying to figure out, because these are tax grant funds. And I just think the amount of information we're given probably isn't enough to clarify where the cost goes. The boat show actually did a breakdown of every check they send out, so that helped tremendously. So I think if you're going to ask for these types of grants, we probably need to get something like this turned into the TDC. They're actually coming back this week with a request of a grant. Or I think what we need to do if this isn't done, because you know what, it does serve a whole lot of people, is maybe we need to just go ahead, if you're doing advertising, we just give that to advertising and you run your show. But the way this is written right now, I'm probably not real comfortable with just doing this with the TDC funds. So Commissioner Goodson, that's where I'm at, because I couldn't find any tax data for the last 3 years. And again, I know we had COVID and stuff, so I actually did a little bit of work, and you actually have a new company now that's called Air Dot Show, so I don't know if some of those funds are going maybe through one corporation to another. I just don't know, because we didn't get the information. Just so you know, I'm not accusing you of anything, but there's just not good data. So again, that would be on you trying to get the data in on where all the checks are going to. Commissioner Goodson.
Okay. I want to make sure that Commissioner Zonka knows that when I met with him, I said, your biggest hurdle is you. You need to convince her that you're a good deal. Also, I got numbers of people attending and money spent. I'm not too sure. I don't believe them, but they're good numbers. So I'd like to pull my motion at this time. I will not be asking the board for the money.
Okay, sure.
Because, excuse me,
probably make a motion.
because you did not do, I don't know, ask the chair. You did not do anything.
No, hold on. Commissioner Goodson, would you like to hear from the applicant, or it's up to you?
No, I'd love to hear this because, I think
Okay.
it'd be, not that it's going to change my mind.
I do want to say, we listened to the Zoom meeting, and word for word, Commissioner Zonka took every question that you had related to our foundation and to the air show. There were questions about the boat race as well. There were some things that I think they were going over top of each other. We went and listened word for word and quoted. I sent you an email with the quotes of the questions that you asked and specifically sent answers to every one of the things that was a question.
I can forward
about
the email. It
our-
wasn't exactly.
Yes,
it
and
wasn't
I
exactly
offered
like
Commissioner
that.
Goodson, and I offered Commissioner Goodson to send it to your office, and your chief of staff said to, out of respect to the Sunshine Law, to please not do that. But I was specific. There were 4 or 5 questions, word for word, and I provided you very concise answers with backup information to all of your questions. You emailed me back and then said you thought the letter that I sent you about Brevard schools was from 2019 when it was in fact from 2021. You said that you think that these funds should only be used to fund events that are newer and not events that are long-standing. The Cocoa Beach Air Show was back for its first year.
What I said was successful.
That was probably me
And
that
if
said
commission
that.
wants to,
No,
I
in
can
the
read
email.
the email. I don't think it's
Yeah.
nearly the way you're portraying it. I mean, you did.
If you'd like to,
You did pick and choose what you wanted to comment on in the meeting and didn't really address some of the other concerns I had. Number one, that you have the foundation just strictly for this event. You don't use this foundation for any other air show that you have all over the place. Again.
Can I explain why? I can give you an explanation.
I don't need an explanation,
No, but
honestly.
I think we're all talking
You
about
have a
this.
history in this county, and you did
Yeah.
the same thing to Melbourne when you went back to them and asked for more money. They turned you down and canceled your contract.
They
And
did
then we
not.
had a commissioner here working hard against the Melbourne Air Show. Coincidence? I don't think so. So again, I'm not comfortable with funding this. I appreciate that you want to use TDC money to profit. I get that, but I'm not.
It is
You
not
didn't come
profit.
here with an explanation on what you even needed the money for. Oh, promotion,
it's
oh,
a-
advertising, marketing.
Commissioner, it is a free event. The event is free to the public.
It's
It is
not
ticket optional.
necessarily free, because you charge for VIP seating on the beach. You make money off of merchandise. Again, it's not a free event for everybody.
Look, all those numbers were available, and we submitted numbers with the TDC application. In addition, our 990s are very detailed. They are all public record. You can see all of that information, public record.
Okay,
Even going back to the Melbourne show,
I think
it
we're-
is all very
Sir,
transparent
I
and
think
public.
we're just going to go to a place, I don't want to
Yeah.
necessarily beat you up
No,
today, but just so you know, I try to get your 990s, and I couldn't get them for the last 2 or 3 years. They haven't been filed yet, and the one before, there just wasn't one done because it was under an amount of money. So anyways, it doesn't matter.
Let me say, Commissioner, no,
sir,
it's on
I'm
the-
just going to comment.
It's
I don't
on the
wanna-
record, so I
No,
really
sir,
feel I
please sit
need to-
down, let me finish my response. We're done.
Okay.
But I was going to recommend, if he's interested in this, I don't know enough about it. I don't want to get personal with the man, But this is the data from the airboat show, and all we're getting is the IRS form that's turned in on this one. It's just not enough data for grant funds for government. So I'm not going to vote for it through here. Commissioner Goodson, thank you for withdrawing it. If it went through the TDC with an appropriate amount of data, perhaps, but as of right now, I wouldn't support this right now either. Commissioner Zonka, did you want to?
And I would say the only further comment I have on this is that, I would encourage anybody questioning Mr. Lilly's business tactics to go look at his Augusta Air Show, where he asked them for $100,000, like he had requested from this board in the past, to do a live streaming, and then didn't provide sponsorship at a 50-50 rate that he provided the government. That's pretty transparent, because I looked into that as well. So, that's all.
Commissioner Goodson, do you want to make a motion to withdraw it, sir?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to withdraw J1 for consideration.
Motion to have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second by Commissioner Feltner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Okay, I'm sorry. I do have one comment card from Ms. Sandra. I'm sorry. You good?
Who voted nay?
Commissioner Tabaya. Mr. Tabaya,
Do you know what you voted against?
withdrawing it? Because you wanted to vote no. You just wanted to vote no on it. That's why, right?
Madam Chair, I gave my word to someone on a way that I would be voting on this, and I wasn't going to renege on that promise that I made, regardless of the change in sponsor's opinion on the piece of legislation. So that was the reason for my vote. Obviously, I'm in the minority, so it really doesn't matter at this point.
Come over to the white side, come over to the Christian side.
We're working on them. Okay, we're going to move into board reports. County Manager.
Thank you. I do have one item. As the board is aware, the clerk's office was involved in an audit approximately a year ago that it began. And during the course of that audit, there were interviews with a lot of county staff. Some staff had expressed concern about going into those interviews, which was an audit / turned into an investigation. And out of the clerk's own words, I think she used that word repeatedly. And some of the people who were interviewed, it was all within the scope of their employment, expressed concern about having to go into those type of meetings where they were recorded and the record was transcribed without some type of representation. At that time, the county attorney's office had sent staff, county attorneys, assistant county attorneys, and actually even the county attorney went to one or more of those meetings with the intent of being there along with the employee. That was, as you know, concluded by the clerk's office, and subsequent to that, FDLE began a independent investigation where they are looking into and looking to interview employees. We tried to set up the same standard, i.e., any employee who wanted the county attorney's office to represent them, to be with them at the meeting, to be able to attend. The county attorney had expressed some concern about their ability to be representative, but they were willing initially to go to those meetings. FDLE posed some objection to that, and I was advised that by the county attorney who had talks with them about they were not going to allow the county attorney's office to be there for those interviews. Subsequent to that, we do have employees who have expressed concern about going into those type of investigative interviews without a legal representative. Since the county attorney's office, I believe, does not believe that they're in a position to represent the employee or attend those meetings because they've been told that the employees will be subpoenaed, that leaves the employees who want legal representation without that representation unless it is provided privately and the county would reimburse them for that. I think that would be appropriate in this limited circumstance, so I wanted to bring it to the board's attention. and request permission to be able to do that in the cases where those employees want a legal representative and they're being interviewed by the FDLE in the course of the investigation for things that were occurred in the course of their employment.
Thank you, sir. I think I know what you're referring to, and it's kind of nerve-wracking having to do this, and nobody here did this. So I completely support this because it's just not comfortable for most staff to have to go. Even with the clerk, I know my staff was like, it gave everybody a little bit of stomach aches, even though nobody did anything. So I'm fully in favor of making sure our staff feels comfortable when they have to go into this situation. Do you need a motion for that, sir?
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Have a motion? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the county manager's office to work with outside county attorneys for representation for employees.
It would, if I understand the county attorney's position is, it would be reimbursement of those employees who hire their own private counsel to participate with them
I
in
think
that
that
investigative.
that scares me a little bit just because of
Yeah, me
cost. They
too.
could hire the most expensive attorney.
Well,
they could find.
and I talked to about that we would ask for permission, that it would be reviewed by myself and the county attorney, who would then have to approve it ahead of time.
Correct.
Right.
And the attorneys would be representing the employees individually purely and not the county in any way, shape, or form at these interviews.
Okay.
That's
So,
difficult, too.
yeah, I'll modify my motion to include those last comments.
Okay, Commissioner Tobias.
Just to be 100% clear, and I don't think this is the case, but all the county employees, so we have this on the record, are providing information into this, or not the subject of
Right.
so just to be clear, former employees that are no longer employees would not have access to reimbursable counsel. Is that correct?
That's tough.
We're talking about current employees who are not targets or subjects of the investigation or exclusively testifying with regard to facts based on their employment.
Perfect. Okay,
Okay.
that yes, thank you for staying in.
We need the lawyer to bring that up.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
We have a motion for that and a second for that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, passes 5-0. Mr. Richardson, before I call you up, I had a public comment card come in a little bit late, just for timing. Ms. Celeste Corrado. I think if you're good, I should do this under board report, but I'm going to start, I think, trying to get all of the comment cards in for the first half before we start, and then for the second half before we hit public hearings, just so that we don't have this lag in the future. But go ahead, ma'am.
My apologies. This is a new venue for me. My name is Celeste Corrado. Good morning to all of you. Not typically a public speaker or one to come to this event, but I wanted to bring to your attention that I'm probably a very new resident, 14 months to Brevard County, to the city of Cocoa. Loved it and moved here because of some of the really unique places along, Indian River Drive and the city of Cocoa. I'm here before you. It's an emotional plea for the fact that 6 months ago, I started to attend some of the city council meetings to actively get involved. This is City of Cocoa council meetings, to actively get involved in preserving what was unique and what made me move there, and was shocked at what I saw. What I came out of that first meeting with was a deep concern for those things that are unique in the area, and a feeling of oppression, which I never expected to feel from that city council proceedings. The deep concern was the fact that I saw decisions being made that were not objective at all, and they were going to impact not just the citizens, but it will impact the county as well. And this is about density, it's about development, none of which were, that I could see, was objective decision-making on the part of the council. The second is more emotional. The oppressive feeling was the fact that there is, if you ever attend any of those meetings, a deep disdain for citizen involvement. It is so apparent. If you just came to one of these meetings, you would see it. They're recorded, you can see it. I've never felt this way in my life, and it's what's making me come before you. Let me give you 2 quick examples, and then my plea is, who above in the county level would be willing to look at the situation, observe, and understand that there's something very wrong going on in the city? I don't know who that is, and my plea is to find that out. I will do all I can to discover that. The 2 examples I want to give you that I saw in that first meeting was in September. What was before the city council was a decision to double the density along Indian River Drive at a scenic byway. It's also a historic area, and it's also what brings visitors and someone like me to live in the county. Double the density there, as well as double and tripling the density in the city of Cocoa Village itself. These are deep concerns of mine. When we looked into what would be the objective reasons for making such a decision, the mayor had enough gall, it's also in public record, to basically say that since the staff did not come up with any compelling reasons for not doubling the density, then we're going to vote yes.
Thank
and
you,
oh,
ma'am.
by the
I'm
way,
sorry.
that density.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I got to cut you off, but I recommend you keep showing up at those meetings and have your voice be heard. We don't have any jurisdiction there, so, but thank you for your comment.
It's not being heard. It
Thank
really
you.
isn't.
Thank you for your
Okay?
comment. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Richardson, sir?
No report, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Goodson?
No report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Tabaya?
No report, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Feltner?
I would just say I appreciate the comments about the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary. There's one other person who was there, and so and it is a good regional group of folks who care about the Indian River. So I think what's encouraging for me is to see that our neighbors to the south have the same concerns. So we're the ones taxing ourselves, but they are concerned, and they're working to make it better down there too. So thanks for your comments today.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Zonka?
And I guess my only comment would be, and I don't want to keep trudging up the air show, because it obviously is a hot topic. For me, it's not personal. I mean, there is a history there, and I encourage anybody who's interested to go and look. But it really came about him being able to justify the need for the money, and I think that really is kind of where I had heartburn. I mean, he had the opportunity to work with the TDC. I mean, if he needed the money for marketing, he could have easily partnered with them, but I think he was looking at us being patsies for his profits and not a partner, because we could have easily helped him market his event. So again, it's not personal. I know that, you can look a little bit, do a little Google search and find out for yourself where he's had other issues in other municipalities. It's not, that makes me even more cautious with our TDC dollars, and I don't think we'd be doing our job if we didn't look more closely at everybody asking for money. That's why we did the same thing with the boat show. But the boat show's doing it right. They're coming back with numbers, they're going back through the TDC, they're very specific on what they need. And as long as their application looks solid, it's something at least I'll give a fair consideration to, so. All right, that's all I have to say about that. I wanted to comment on it just because I know, it got a little heated, and I think even Mr. Lilly got a little irritated with us, which was kind of shocking for somebody asking for money, but I just wanted to make another comment on that.
Thank you, ma'am. And Commissioner Goodson did request that he met with you, and he should have. That way, he could have talked to you, and you wouldn't have to do it here. We try very hard.
And I'll say
not
his
to have a lot
email
of
did have
drama
a
here.
couple of points in it, but it wasn't nearly as detailed as he expressed, and he never once asked to meet with me. And it's kind of funny because my husband is in aviation, and he knows him quite well because he's known him for many years because they kind of live in that same universe. He's got his cell phone number too. I mean, he could have said, hey, could you give me 5 minutes? And he didn't call my office for a meeting. So again, I don't think he can justify where he wants to spend the money, and I think that's a problem for him, and probably why he didn't come to the first meeting to ask for it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I don't have anything for us today, so I'm going to call us adjourned. Y'all have a great Tuesday.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.